we only have one kingdom, and which one is it? Israel or Judah? Judah. Okay, Judah in the north or the south? All right. Somewhere in your, you have a colored chart of the different Bible historical periods. It's the last chart that I gave that is colored, and it's the 13 Bible periods. Up to, it's not all 13. Okay, Kathy has it out. Yes, right there. Could I have that, Mitz? It's right here, and I don't think it has a page number to it, but it looks like this. All right?
I got it right. It should be page 68.
About 68 is where you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. It's in lesson 7. In lesson 7. Looks like this. All right. Now just for a brief moment, let's take a look at what's happening here. The yellow part is tracing the kingdom era, isn't it? And from its beginning. So you notice the split, and we have Israel in the north and Judah in the south. We had the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom had how many kings? The United Kingdom had how many kings? 3. And those 3 kings, starting with Saul, were? Solomon died in what year? 931 BC. Solomon died in what year?
931 BC.
Thank you. I was about to forget that. When he dies in 931 BC, that's the end of the United Kingdom, and we enter then the divided kingdom, and the divided kingdom will last until when? What happens in 722? Okay, the north goes into captivity to Assyria, don't they? Into Assyria. In what year? 722. So 931 Solomon died, but 722 the north goes to captivity to Assyria. They're in captivity to Assyria. That marks the beginning then of the single kingdom era, because the north is gone. So now we have the southern kingdom, the single kingdom, and so that will take you from 722 to 586. All right, so on your notes for tonight, you can write that down, and that'll get you started. All right, so the single kingdom era is going to take us from 722 to 586. The scriptures for that are, somebody tell me what the scriptures are for the single king. If you want to read about the single kingdom era, where would you go to in the Bible? 2 Kings 18 to 25. Where else? Okay. Where else would you read? Probably Joel. Maybe Joel. It's hard to date Joel. Okay. All right. Here's some events that took place. Judah had some good and some bad kings during this time. Judah had some good kings. In fact, they had some excellent kings during this time. They also had some bad, and they seemed to almost always, not quite always, but they frequently alternated from good to bad and good to bad. And you wonder, how in the world could such a bad king have such a good son? And how could such a good son turn out such a rotten guy to follow him? But that's what happened. Judah made some unwise alliances, particularly one, and Judah rebels against Babylon. All right, Judah lasts much longer for the following reasons. There was a greater loyalty to God. That is, there was not as much idolatry so soon as there was in the north. And so the first reason that Judah lasts longer is because there was a greater loyalty to God. The second thing would be the effect of the prophets on the south. They had a saving effect and a preserving effect upon the south, much more than on the north. The third thing is the promise to preserve a remnant. God had promised He would preserve a remnant of His people, and so He does that within Judah. And another one is that God needed to preserve the record the genealogical record for the Messiah. And so he held things together and kept them in the country much longer so he could establish that line. Okay? All right. Now, kings of the single kingdom era. Boy, this is great reading when you get into this. Do you remember good old King Ahaz? We did a drama about King Ahaz, and as he related to Pekah and Reason. Remember that? We made them gangsters. That was a lot of fun. Okay, well, so Ahaz is going to be a transitional king. He is a king of Judah while the north goes into captivity. Okay? So he's a transitional king from the divided kingdom era to the single kingdom era. All right, and he reigned from 744 to 715, but his reign from 744 to 715, a good share of that reign was in co-regencies. Now, what did we say is a co-regency? Does anybody know what a co-regency is? Yeah. Yes. And normally, you find it's a father-son team. And so the father is still the king, but maybe for 20, 30 years, he has his son reigning with him, and the son is a co-regent. And then, as in the case of Ahaz, there is also a co-regency then with his son. And so it makes it hard to, when you say in the third year of Ahaz, do you mean the third year of his co-regency, or the third year when he was the only king? And are you counting the ascension year? So when he did come on, or are you counting only from the beginning of the calendar year? So it becomes a little difficult. As I mentioned before, Thiele's book, Mysterious Numbers of the Hebrew Kings, kind of unravels that great mystery for us. But so he began as a co-regent with his godly father, Jotham. Then Jotham died in 735. Ahaz was the worst king of Judah. He was the most unsuccessful king. He was just a lousy king. Not only was he ungodly, but he didn't know how to rule. So he was the wicked son of a godly father. He was an unsuccessful warrior. He was a degenerate son, and he was an apostate king. What's an apostate? One who, what? Departs from the faith. Okay, there's probably a place in there for you to write that word, departs. One who departs from the faith. And so he wasn't true to the Lord anymore. He was the king. You remember when Isaiah came to him? And so don't worry about these two smoking brands, these two kings, Pekah and Reason. Don't worry about those two guys. Sure, they say they're going to come and sack Jerusalem. It's not going to happen. And so God says to you, you could ask him for any sign in heaven above or earth below. Any sign, Ahaz. Any sign that will build your faith, will grow your faith in him. He's the only person I know in the Bible that's ever handed a blank check by God. Fill it out. If you were handed a blank check, Lori, from God, would you fill it out? He says, you can have any sign you want, and I'll do it for you. And so what sign does Ahaz ask for? Nothing. And that is when Isaiah says to him, isn't it enough for you to try the patience of man? Would you try the patience of God also? You won't ask for a sign, but the Lord himself will give you a sign anyway. A virgin will conceive and bear a son, and will call his name Emmanuel. That's where that prophecy comes from. This worst king era. The guy that wouldn't write, fill out the check. All right. Then, he also shut the doors of the temple so that the only God not worshipped in Judah was the Lord. He prevented the worship of the one true God. At least, wicked King Ahab still allowed people to worship the one true God, but this guy didn't. In fact, there isn't anything said of this guy except evil. Nothing said of him in his character except evil. He died at the young age of 36 and went unwept and unhonored and unsung. In fact, 1 Chronicles 28:22 says this. This is Ahaz, a solemn warning to young men. It was during the reign of Ahaz that the northern kingdom, with their king Hoshea, that the north was taken into captivity. All right, Hezekiah follows, 2 King 7:15 to 6:86, and he was a godly king, and he reigned for 29 years, and he was probably the best king in the divided kingdom era. Hezekiah. And he immediately, just right immediately, started to clean up all the mess his dad had made. So what he did was he just, with a vengeance, he attacked idolatry and removed the high places, broke down the obelisk and cutting down the Asherah poles and destroying Moses' brazen serpent. They even had Moses' brazen serpent. They were putting up and worshiping it. And we're taking that down. We're destroying that, and we're destroying everything, and we're going to reinstitute the proper worship of the one true God. Hadn't been worshipped all the time during his father's reign. And so that's what he decided he was going to do. And he opened the doors of the temple, and he cleansed it and sanctified it, and he reinstituted the sacrifices, and it was all done at once. Just with a quick vengeance, he attacked it immediately. Okay, letter G. He called for the celebration of the Passover. And you know what is really interesting about that? He's the king of what? Judah. But he went and he sent messengers all through the land from Dan to Beersheba. Now some of you already know where Dan is. Way up north, isn't it? It's not in Judah. It's way up northern Israel territory. But you see, there's still a lot of Israelites that are left up there. And he sends word all through what had been the United Kingdom years before and said, we're going to celebrate Passover. Come to Jerusalem. Isn't that something? He realized there was no king up there. And he said, come down and we're going to reinstitute Passover. What a remarkable guy. And he got them to come. And so they came. You know what? We don't have record of the Passover having been observed for the previous 725 years. We don't have record of it being observed.